Hey everyone, thanks. This is a quick overview and a companion video to the article on the website, Doscher.com. The link is in the pinned comment below. I'm going to go over very quickly the concept behind the 3D printed parts. I want to give everybody a good jump start on the parts and how to assemble this, because these are unusual parts and a little bit of info can go a long way. I have the end unit parts. They're pretty big. They take a little while to print, but they're pretty beefy. They'll do okay with holding up some monitors. The first piece has a hole here for the 1/2-inch bolt. The 1/2-inch bolt is what mounts to the steel channel. Now, it actually is oriented like this because it's got an EMT groove here, and it's got one here, and it's got a little end cap here and here. So when we cut the EMT to length, that sharp piece isn't sticking out the side. But this is what bolts to the channel. This piece is what comes in over top and mounts with some M5 screws. You want this to be fairly loose for your first set that you print and put on the steel channel, put on the wall, because you need to bring the EMT in from the side. And the hole for the EMT here on the side is just a little bit smaller than the EMT itself. So when you go and compress these parts together, it'll create a nice grip on the EMT. So with that said, once you have this side done, you can go and print your other end. Now, if you have a long span like I did, I have the center channel pieces or the center channel support. It's mostly just there to keep the EMT conduit from sagging. Now, EMT conduit is generally designed for construction, for putting wires in it to protect it from various environments, but it's also pretty strong, and it's strong enough to hold a couple monitors. I wouldn't use it to hold anything super heavy, like a really old display or a piece of heavy equipment, but for a couple monitors, it's perfect. So once you have all of these parts printed up and you've got your EMT on, so before you can put on your EMT, you're going to have to buy it from the hardware store and cut it to length. You can get what's called a pipe cutter. Pipe cutters are very sharp, and the cut pipe from the EMT, when you actually cut that EMT pipe, it's very sharp on the end. So just be very, very careful. Like I mentioned in the article, a lot of the parts in this project are very sharp. Be very careful. This is not a project for small children. I recommend using work gloves. And again, caution, parental supervision, all of that good stuff. That said, once you've got both sets of end brackets up, you can measure out the piece of EMT and you can give it a 1/2 inch, 20 millimeters spacing on either side. That way it's got some play. It won't shift left or right, especially after you clamp these together. So once you have those up, you've got your center support up, you've got these bars that go from one end to the other. And part of the reason why we use these end clamps and EMT is, depending on the building code in your area, your studs in the wall where you have to mount the channel might be different lengths apart. So while this may work for my setup, you may want a more narrow setup. You may only want to go between two studs. That should be fine. And again, most of it comes down to just varying the lengths of the EMT conduit. Once you've got all those parts up, I'm going to show you what we would do mount the actual monitor. Now, the monitor has 3 core parts, even though there's a couple more that I'm not going to show you. The first is the piece that mounts to the back of the monitor. The next is a spacer. This is as wide as the EMT conduit. So this is about 3/4 inch wide. So it goes like this. And the next one is the hook file. And if you look, these provide a hook to be able to drop down on the conduit. And now there's a second one that goes down here, a second spacer, a second hook, and it provides a nice amount of strength and rigidity for the monitor. So now I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to take this monitor off the wall and show you what it looks like. So as you can see, there's not even any screws that you have to do to take the monitor off. They just kind of hang in there with gravity. But if I show you the back of this monitor, you can see those 2 hooks. You can see they're 3D printed in black plastic. But this is pretty darn strong. Now, I wouldn't use this for a swinging arm or something where you're going to have some dynamic loads that are going to swing and push and pull a lot. But for a monitor that's just going to hang there, pretty straightforward. Now, I want to emphasize some tips and tricks for installation and 3D printing here very quickly. So first off, when you're mounting your EMT, use a bubble level. Get it perfectly level, because when you have it perfectly level, your monitors will match up and be perfectly level. That's super, super important. Take the time to make sure everything's perfectly level. The other piece that I want to talk about is 3D printing orientation. So this one will need to print with supports. We've got this cool grid piece here. If you wanted to modify this and take all those recesses out, you could. It ends up looking a little bit plain. But if you print it the way I intend, you'll need some supports, and those supports are just for the EMT channel goes. And that's for both of these parts. Now, where the holes go for the 1/2-inch bolts, those will require some supports too, but again, nothing too crazy. All of the rest of the parts print without any supports. When I do structural stuff, I take a lot of the tips and tricks for printing structural, and a lot of it has to do with print orientation. And we try to minimize the pulling layer, pulling the different layers apart. So a lot of the stuff is printed very flat. I'm using PLA, usually 4 print walls. And then for the hanging files, I've done 20% infill. And then for the back of the monitor pieces, I did the same. Thank you for taking your time to watch this video. Hopefully this pairs well with the article. You can get free articles delivered via email. Paid subscribers get access to all of the files, and they get access to all of the files that have ever been made. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. I'll be making more of these videos in the future, and look forward to seeing you out there. Thank you.